Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday live stream. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd. How's it going? My name is Angela, and on this channel, we practice front-end development. I'm a front-end developer and a software engineer for about 13 years now. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. And we just practice vanilla on this channel, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, because guess what? Those are the three things that the browser renders natively. Yes, you need to probably know React, Tailwind, stuff like that to get a job. I think you also need to know some vanilla. And if you have a desire to node vanilla and understand vanilla, then this is a good place for you to hang out. And you are always welcome here. I stream 4 days a week. I didn't get the chat ready. What was I thinking? Let me do that right now. I stream 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. I do the occasional sprint. I have 2 sprints planned for March. We're going to do a couple of back-to-back sprints, 6 days. The project that we're working on definitely warrants a sprint because it's many pages. I tend to do a lot of landing pages, and I'm sort of the last couple projects now wanting to do multi-page layouts. And again, it's mostly all static, all vanilla. So we don't use compilers. We don't need Node. We don't need a package manager, nothing like that. I just want to show people that yes, you can build things static and vanilla, and they're perfectly good. And of course, everything that I do is available on GitHub. So I release all of that, MIT license, totally open source. If you feel like that's something that you could use in your project, whether it's a commercial, personal, whatever, the whole point of this is to have it be educational and to give back to the open source community, because I'm a self-taught developer and I like giving back to a community that I feel like has given a lot to me. So there's that. Do me a favor. Go ahead and like the video. It helps the algorithm, helps push this type of content out to more people who might enjoy this. Subscribe if you're not already. I would love to have you. I would appreciate it so much. And Malik Robinson left us a message that so Malik is in his design internship right now. We're so proud of him. He's got stuff to do for his internship, but he's going to keep the stream open. And, I don't know if we'll have any other mods here today. So maybe it's just you and me. Maybe it's just us. That's okay too, right? I am pretty excited for what I have to show you today, which is that I have the JavaScript ready for our navigation. We're working on this project that I'm calling Colorado. And you know what? Let's open the design files. I forgot to do that. Give me a moment here. I have everything else ready to go. Okay. So here's our design files. I just went through my collection of mockups. Back in my freelancing days, technically I'm still a freelancer, but back when I was doing like a lot of freelancing. Oh, and you cannot see my screen. God damn it. Why does this keep happening? I don't know why. This has happened now 3 streams in a row, and I don't know why. So bear with me. At least it happened in the beginning. There we go. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm gonna have to figure out why we're freezing. Maybe OBS needs to be updated. There we go. All right, that's working. And that's working. Okay, good. Let's go here. And Clash of Clans Legend is here. Hello, good evening. It's morning for me. It's evening for you. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. So here's our design files. Let me get these in the right order. Back in my freelancing days, I would buy layered Photoshop files. I call these low resolution mockups. They just had gray boxes. They didn't really have branding. They were just really about the layout, help giving me a little lift with typography, things like that. I found these incredibly helpful when I was freelancing. It just took a lot of the pressure off of me to come up with fresh designs. I could grab one of these layered Photoshop files, and by the time I added in the client's content, their images, their branding, boom, I had a full-fledged custom website. And I have dozens, maybe hundreds of these layered Photoshop files in my collection. So I've just been grabbing layered Photoshop files to build out projects. I feel like up until the last couple of months, I've mostly stuck to one-page websites, like landing pages. Now that I'm streaming 4 days a week, we're getting those landing pages done really fast. So I thought, let's start doing more multi-page, full-fledged websites. So I'm pretty excited about that. I have 4 designs here pulled up. I think this is going to end up being 5 or 6 pages though, but here are 4 pages. My approach is that I always do the home page first in its entirety, top to bottom, accessible, responsive, everything. Because once you are done with a home page, you have that header and that footer locked in, accessible, responsive, mobile friendly, and you have your branding figured out, you have a lot of your layout styles figured out, your headings figured out, you just have a lot of stuff figured out, and then building out those inner pages tends to be pretty straightforward, much, much quicker. So that's my approach. There are some things here we are not doing. The hero is a slider in the mockup. I'm not doing that. The latest portfolio is also a slider, not doing a slider here. Here's the newsletter sign up. I am going to hook this up to MailChimp. I also added an extra field, so we're not just getting an email address, we're getting a name and an email address. Here's our blog. Here is our testimonials. This will be a slider, so we've got our buttons in place. And then we have to finish styling our footer. However, what we're going to do first is we're going to finally finish this navigation. So we have the navigation, I would say 95% done. Like it's styled, it's accessible. There are a few styles left that we need to do. And then today I have all of the JavaScript ready to implement and walk through and show you what I decided on for functionality, so we can we can open up the search drawer, we can open up the navigation on mobile, and we can click our buttons for the submenus. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see here. So let's get started. One moment. Okay. So full disclosure, I've spent the last couple of days working on this, and I definitely use ChatGPT, but I didn't want ChatGPT to just do it for me. I wanted help from ChatGPT, and I wanted ChatGPT to explain it to me. And when I first showed it the markup and I said, hey, help me, it just did the thing where it just like spit out a ton of JavaScript that I didn't really understand, because JavaScript is not my strength. So I had to kind of walk it back. I had to show it the JavaScript that I normally do for just the top level, so like navigation minus submenus. And I was like, listen, I want to do it in the style that I've already been doing it. I don't want a bunch of code that I don't understand, because there's more than one way to do everything, and that doesn't make it wrong. So it took a couple of days and several hours to figure out. So you might have a way that you would do this that's a little bit different, but this is the way that I have chosen to do it. So here we go. Let's start with what are we going to start with? We'll just start with our add event listener document, add event listener, DOM content loaded. So this is where we're going to initialize everything. And then the first thing that we're going to need, because we're putting all of those, well, we're putting the navigation and the search drawer active classes on the body. So we'll just say const body equals document dot body. So that's the first thing. And Rahul is also here. ChatGPT for the win. Yes. What I like about ChatGPT is that I can tell it to adjust its tone. And I can say, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what my ideas are. I don't want you to just give me code. I want you to tell me if I'm thinking about this in the correct way. And when I ask for help, then I want your help. So it's very strategic. It's much slower. So if you need to get this done quickly and you don't care about understanding everything, which if I was at my job or in a time crunch with client work, I wouldn't care about understanding all the nuances. But for this, I'm willing to take the extra time to like have that back and forth, ask for what I need, and ask for explanations. So I'm going to do a helper function that is going to have 4 things. First, we need a state button. And the state button is the thing that shows aria-expanded true or false. So it's the button with aria-expanded. The next thing we need are the trigger buttons. So that's the button that you either click to open or click to close, and there's generally 2, at least for the mobile nav drawer and the search. There's 2 buttons, right? So we're going to call that the trigger buttons. And these are the buttons that get the click listeners. The next thing we need is the control element. So that's the thing that gets the class. And again, for the main mobile navigation drawer and for the search drawer, it's the body class. For the sub navigation, it's the actual unordered sub menu. So the control element, this is the element that gets the class. And then the last thing is the state class. So that's the actual class that we're applying. The class that represents I can't spell, represents active. So our helper function will have these 4 things. Let's go ahead really quick and define what the navigation and the search state button and trigger buttons actually are. So for the navigation, we know that we have menu open, menu close, and then each of those buttons also has menu button. So we need the menu open. That's menu open. And then we need the trigger buttons, which is menu buttons. So menu open is our state button, menu buttons are the trigger buttons, the control element is the body, and then the state class is going to be menu active. So now let's do search. And our state button is search open. Oops. And our trigger buttons are search buttons. And that's search button. So there are two buttons, search open, search close, and then each of those buttons also has a class search button. Okay, so let's set up our helper function now. Oops. So I'm going to call this function toggle control item. And we have the state button, the trigger, I can't spell today, the trigger button, the control element, and the state class. So we're always going to check to see if the trigger buttons exist. So we'll say if there are no trigger buttons, and we'll check the length since we know that's an array. And we'll just return if they don't exist. Then we're going to loop through the trigger buttons. So assuming that they're there, we'll for each and then we're going to add an event listener to the button we're clicking. And that'll be a click. And then we'll do what we normally do. This is what I do for pretty much all of my navigation. So we'll do is open, control element, class list, toggle the state class. And then we're going to account for the aria-expanded, that's for the state button. So we'll say if state button, oops, and we'll say state button set attribute aria-expanded, and we'll say is open. If it's open, true. Whoops. Otherwise it's false. So this is pretty much how I do it for everything, except we're doing it now for the menu, we're doing it for the search, we're also doing it for the submenu, so it makes sense to have a helper function. Okay. Next, let's just focus on the menu toggle, the main menu toggle, and the search toggle. So we'll say main menu toggle, and we'll make this a function. And we'll toggle the control item, and it's going to be menu open. Menu open is our state button. Our trigger button is menu buttons. Our element is the body, the control element. And then our state class is menu active. So here's our toggle for the mobile navigation. Let's test it real quick and see if it works. Do we have any errors in the console? No. Oh, we probably didn't initialize it yet. All right, no errors. That's good. There we go. And let's check and see. Let's make sure that we're actually getting, here's aria-expanded false. That's for the search though. Here's our social navigation. Oh, that's the social navigation. Hang on. Where's our button for? Right here. Aria-expanded false. Did I get that wrong? Let's see here. Yes. Did I get this wrong? No. If state button set attribute aria-expanded is open, true, else false. Menu open, menu buttons, menu button, menu open, aria-expanded. So this should say true right here. And it's not. Let's see here. Did I spell something wrong? Oh, I don't have, I forgot to put aria-expanded on the button. Aria-expanded, false. So here's aria-expanded false. why it's not changing. Oh, this is not even the right place to do this. That's why. This is inside. So here's the social navigation. Aria-expanded false. It's already here. But this is the search button. Hang on. Search drawer. Where is... So here's my button. Okay, so here's my button for the navigation. We have an aria label. We have aria controls. We do already have aria-expanded false. Menu button, menu open. See, usually I spell something wrong. That's why it's not working. We have our aria controls. Not that that matters. Here's the close button, which is inside the drawer, so it doesn't matter. This doesn't need an aria-expanded. It was working this morning. State button, set the attribute, aria-expanded. If it's open, it's true, otherwise false. Well, let's keep going. Let's see if the search. Let's see if the search works. If search doesn't work, then we know that we have an error here, but I'm not sure what it is. Function search toggle. Toggle the control item. So we want search open, search buttons, search open, search buttons. The control element is the body, and it's search active is the class, the state class. So here's the search button, aria-expanded false. Yeah, so we obviously have a mistake here. Where is my mistake? Oh, I didn't even initialize it yet. That's an obvious mistake. Okay, so this is working. Aria-expanded true is working. Why is our aria-expanded not working on the drawer? Did I spell it wrong? No. Menu button, menu open. Oh, right here. That's why. There we go. Okay, good. Well, that was easy. Okay, so it's working. You just have to enter in your classes correctly, right? Okay, good, good, good. Onward and upward. So now we know that we can open and close the menu drawer. We know that we can open and close the search. What we're going to do with CSS is we're going to make sure that you can only have one thing open at a time. So if a drawer is open with CSS, we're going to hide these buttons, and that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to keep us from having more than one drawer open at a time. It's also going to take these buttons out of the flow so screen readers and keyboard navigation can't access them. So if the drawer is open, there's no reason to have an open button. So we're going to do that with CSS. So let's do that next. So the class is menu active or search active. For either of those things on the body, we're going to make sure that those buttons are hidden. So let's find our search. And actually, I feel like we could put these. No, let's make sure that we have those down with the actual search. Here's our search drawer. Here's our search button. Here we also have search active. So I'm also going to say search active. We'll do, well, I want it to be for both though. So if it's search active or if it's menu active, so I think I will put this up here at the top. So search active, menu active. And we know that we want the menu open. Search active. Okay, so we're going to have to do this 4 times. Search active, search open. Or menu active, search open. Search active, menu open, menu open, menu active, menu open. Yeah. So we're covering, there's 4 scenarios, right? visibility, and it's just going to be visibility hidden. So we still keep that space in the header if your header depends on the size of the buttons for styling and layout. Visibility removes it from the DOM. Well, it doesn't remove, it hides it from the DOM, it holds the space, and it hides it from a screen reader or keyboard navigation. That's what this does. So let's make a note here. Hides the menu open and search open buttons from keyboard navigation and screen readers. So Rahul is asking me in the chat to try something, and I am going to respectfully decline because I'm happy with the current functionality. It makes sense to me, and I'm just gonna do what is working for me and what I understand. But thank you for making a suggestion in the chat. I'm not going to try anything different. I'm just going to keep moving forward. Okay, so now those buttons, that's perfect. And so you may say, well, why do you need to hide those buttons when the search drawer is open? Because you can't see them. It's because the focus can leave the drawer, and I don't want the focus to land someplace outside the drawer where it might be the open button. And we are going to add functionality to include the escape key to close this also. So I'm not going to trap focus inside this drawer, but we are going to make it so you can hit the escape key to close the drawer. So you could either click this button or you could click the escape key. So there we go. So now with this open, if we're tabbing and we've entered the document, we could go back out. You see there that it skips over these buttons. These are hidden from screen readers and these are hidden from keyboard navigation. And that's exactly what I want. If the drawer is open, I don't want these open buttons to be accessible. And then once it's closed, we can see these again. So, okay, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want. Very easy to do with CSS. And the CSS does something for us that JavaScript doesn't do. It's the accessibility part. So we're doing two things. You don't need I think it would be very tempting to use JavaScript to make sure that both drawers couldn't be open at the same time. But look at how easy that is to do with CSS, and we get the additional benefit of making sure that the open buttons aren't accessible to the keyboard navigation or to a screen reader. So there's that. Okay, moving on, because we have so much more to do. Now we need to deal with the submenus. And here's where I think I've changed my mind on how the submenus are currently functioning. Here's what I mean by that. I made it so the submenus are available on hover on the LI, right? And I feel like that is a normal user experience. However, once I implement the JavaScript to make the submenus persistent by clicking the buttons, I actually think that it might make more sense to not do that. So let's implement it and I'll let you see what you think. But I think we're going to end up taking the hover off of the list items. So let's try it. So first we actually need, let me see here. Okay, So let's do our submenu function. And we are going to use the helper function toggle, but we have to do a little extra. Since we have multiple submenus, we obviously need to loop through the submenus. So we'll do function submenu toggle, and then we'll check. Oh, and I didn't, hang on, we didn't define those yet, did we? Submenus. And so these are going to operate as both the state button and the trigger buttons. So sub menu buttons, document, query selector all. And we are going to get this by the aria controls. So this is main nav, button, aria controls. So again, let's look at our markup. Our accessibility is kind of like helping us out here with the JavaScript. We have a really easy way to connect our button to our submenu, because accessibility wise, the correct way to do this is to do aria controls and then give our submenu an ID. And that's how we tell a screen reader, hey, this button controls this thing. But now we can also use this in our JavaScript. It's really easy to connect this button to this. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. So we're going to grab an array of buttons, any button that has aria controls, and then we'll come right here. And we'll do a function submenu toggle. Whoops. And again, we'll check to see if there are any buttons. And we'll check the length. If there aren't any, we'll just go ahead and return. And then we're going to loop through the submenu buttons. And we're going to get the ID. We're going to make an ID out of the aria controls value. So that's the ID. And then we'll get the submenu. And we can get element by ID. And it's the ID, right? They should match. And then we'll say if there's no submenu, whoops, then return. So we're just checking. And now we can put in our helper class, toggle control item. And we have a state button, trigger button. Our state button is the button. Our trigger button is the array of buttons. Our control element is the submenu. And our state class is active. We're adding active to the submenu, and then we let the CSS do all the work. So we should be able to toggle our submenus now by clicking that button. And here's where, once I did this, I was like, actually, I don't know if I really like this functionality. So here we just do hover for a preview, but now we can click this Oops. Oh, gosh darn it. Angela. I'm like 3 for 3. Okay, so here we go. We hover for preview. And then I can click that. Oh, we're not persistent. Hang on here. Did I spell something wrong again? Right here. Okay, let's. Okay, so we're not getting any errors. That's good. So is anything happening? No. Oh, class underscore submenu. Is there, did I spell something wrong? No, that shouldn't matter. Main nav, button, aria controls, yep, that's spelled correctly. For each button, ID, button, get attribute, aria controls, submenu, document, get the element by ID. If there's no submenu, return. Oh, wait a second. What's this? Oops. Okay. There we go. Now we have our persistent button. So can you see here why this is a little weird to have it also hover and be persistent? So first of all, so there we go. So our aria-expanded and adding our active class, beautiful. So I'm kind of thinking that we need to remove the hover from the LI. To me, that makes more sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. I think you get my drift. So I think this. I think we need to take that out. And I think we need to take this out. I don't think there's a wrong way to do this. But I think we need to pay attention to whether or not something feels normal, right? And also let's take out our active classes. We put in active classes for styling. So let's just take these out. Let's not worry about these right now. and just focus on the user experience. We can do that. We can do that later. So let's think about what this experience is like now. So now we hover and we specifically click to open. And then let's test this with our keyboard navigation. First of all, let's make sure that that works. It does. And we're not done. We're going to write more JavaScript to make sure that we only have one submenu open at a time. But this works. I think this makes more sense like this. Since we have this big juicy button here, which means let's make sure we're styling this to have, which I hadn't thought of that yet. Let's make sure that we have that nice, let's let people click the button to decide what they want to do. And so that's working. We need to, this is doing a hover thing here. We need to style this. So let's keep going with this. We're doing it, you guys, we're doing it. So yeah, let's do this first. It's gonna make our life easier. So right now our submenus are still position absolute, and we want to put them back in the flow. For desktop, when they're hovering over our hero image, that's fine. Here we want to get these back into the flow. Let's go look at our styles. So I'm going to take this out. Somebody wants to see a submenu. We have a big, juicy button for them to click on, don't we? Which means that we don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to take out the hover because we're not going to have a hover anymore. Okay, so where did we style these submenus? Right here. These are position absolute. I think all we need to do on mobile is make these positions static, and we can get these back into the flow. I think that's all we need to do. So here's our media query. Submenu. Whoops. Position static. We'll see if we need to do any additional styling. We do need to do some additional styling, but I think all we have to do is make sure that our list items, everything inside the LI, is right here, flex flow row. I think we just need to change the flex direction. So I think we can, in our media query right here, put flex direction column, and that'll take care of that. Flex direction column. Ugh, why do I keep, I need you over here. But I still need, yeah, okay, so I still need my button to be next to my anchor element, but I need this to be, so I don't want it to be a column then. So I think what I need is I still want it to be a row, but the flex flow should be wrap, and the UL should be with 100%. So instead of flex direction, it would be flex wrap, and that's going to keep the arrow next to the anchor element, And then I think this would just be width 100%. I hope. We'll see. Width 100%. Worst case scenario, we have to put the anchor element and the button inside of a container, which I don't think is the end of the world. Okay, so far so good. Beautiful. There we go. So we're maybe going to want to do some different styling for the submenu so you can actually tell the difference between the submenu. But look, you can open and close these now. And yeah, we may want to left align these after all. So let's do a little extra styling here. Let's make sure, first of all, that we've got focus, hover, active just for the buttons. I'm so excited for what we're getting done today. Should have done this a long time ago. I mean, better late than never, right? But we should have done this a long time ago. Okay, so here's our button type button. I feel like those are going to need a class. We could just do submenu has button. So if the button has a submenu, yeah, let's do that. We can do that, right? Our styles are definitely going to be tied to this. Okay, let's start right here. So it's our main nav li button has submenu. And I don't care about whether or not it's active. I don't care about whether or not it's active. And then can I do this? Am I just being lazy when I could add a class? Is that what's happening here? Am I just being lazy? Does it even, why would it, if it didn't have a submenu, why would it have a button? Does this even matter? I don't even think this matters. It's not gonna, it doesn't, it would only, the button would only exist if it has a submenu, so I don't think this matters. Yeah, I think I'm overthinking this. And so what's the default state? The default state is nothing. Do I not have any other? Here, I do. Main nav button. So it's not affecting this button. So it's just any main nav button. Is that too broad? I don't think so. I don't think that's too broad, because why would there be a button if it didn't have a submenu. Should I just add a class to the button? Okay. Okay. Yeah, and we want to keep these all together, right? Yeah, so there's all the submenu stuff. Let's keep all of this together. Okay. If you're an overthinker, it's totally fine. It's okay to be an overthinker. I don't know. It's just how this seems to work sometimes. Let's normalize overthinking, shall we? Okay, so that means that by default, in order to transition, we have to define these default styles. So we're going to say background color, transparent, and that means that we're going to transition and say the background color is our accent color, and then let's transition that. We'll do 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. And then here's our SVG. Default state is our accent color. So we'll take this. And when we focus on the button, we'll trigger the SVG. When we hover on the button, we'll trigger the SVG. When the button is active, we will trigger the SVG. And then our stroke will be white. And then let's make sure that we're transitioning that stroke. "300 milliseconds, ease in, out." So I think we need to adjust these now. I think we definitely need to make sure that that arrow continues to be rotated if the submenu is active. So I think this is right. But I think this actually should go here. We don't need this twice. And I don't think we need the LI. Yeah, this makes sense to me. Let's see if it actually works. Wow. Look at that. All right. I'm good with that. And then if it's open, if you keep tabbing, you automatically go through. I love it. We need to do a little more styling, I think, here if this is open, yeah, so we've got a little more styling here to do on the mobile. But we're just about there. Everything's going swimmingly so far. Okay. Back to our JavaScript. So here's the next thing I want to do with our JavaScript. I want to make sure that we only have one submenu open at a time, which means that if a submenu is open and we click another submenu, it automatically clicks anything else that's open. So let's do that next. What do we think so far? One moment. I usually take myself off camera when I have to blow my very runny nose. Sorry about that. And it looks like we're doing really well on time as well. So, okay. So now we're going to do another helper function, or yeah, technically it's kind of a helper function, called close all submenus. Close all, well, close, well, only one submenu open at a time. How about that? Okay, so we'll say function close all submenus, and it's going to be except for the button that we're currently clicking. So like an exception button. So we're going to loop through and we'll say if the button is equal to the exception button, which is the button that we're currently clicking, then we want to stop and return. So we'll do something very similar. We're going to get the ID, which is equal to, we're going to define the ID rather, get the attribute, oops, attribute, aria controls, and then we'll define the submenu, which is the document get element by ID, and that's the ID that we just defined. And then we'll say if there's no submenu, go ahead and return, just stop. And then we'll say submenu class list, remove the active class, button, set attribute, aria-expanded, false. And we want to put this, we're actually going to add this to our helper function, the main toggle control item. And this is actually just going to be button for the click event right there. So now we should be able to click here, click there. That removes it. So now we only have one open at a time. So I think that's a good user experience. I actually don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to have multiple submenus open. But if we also want to start working on mega menus, I think it would be good to make sure that we didn't have multiple mega menus open at the same time. And if we want to reuse this JavaScript, which I think would be pretty reasonable to do, having a helper function that makes sure that you only have one submenu open at a time would work really, really well on mega menu styles. So we don't have layers of sub mega menus open, right? So I think we can easily reuse this if we work on a project with mega menus, which we are going to do. That's going to be a future project. So, okay, so the final thing that we need to do now, well, let's make sure this works on mobile. It should. I don't know why it wouldn't. Love that. So the final thing that we need to do now is we need to do something. So when you click the escape key, you are clearing those classes from the body, but we are also clearing the active classes from the submenu. So I'm going to do it the original way that I did it. And then I'm going to show you a modification, which is what I was actually doing this morning, because I did this yesterday, and then this morning I was sort of reviewing everything, and I was like, actually, I don't think that this works the way I wanted to, and I dug a little deeper. So I'm going to do it the original way that I did it yesterday, and I want to see if you notice what I noticed this morning. It's very interesting. So we're going to do, the final thing is an escape toggle. Are we having fun? I'm having a blast. I'm having such a good time. You have no idea. This is so exciting to me. So, okay, so we're going to do document, add event listener, and we're looking for a key down, and we need to capture that event just like that. And we're going to check to see if the event key is equal to escape. And if it's not, we're going to return. So there's our little check to get started. So let's start with, let's just start with the easy part, because there's only one. We're going to remove the body class and the aria-expanded. We're going to change from true to false for the menu and for the search drawer, but I'm going to do these as an if statement. Because there's only going to be one open at a time, I'm going to actually do an if-else statement. So we'll say body, class list contains menu active. We're going to do body, class list, remove menu active, and menu open set attribute aria-expanded back to false. And then I'm going to say else if body class list contains search active body class list remove search active search open set attribute aria-expanded. We're going to change that back to false. Okay, so let's make sure that this works. Baby steps, one thing at a time. Okay, so I'm going to hit the escape key, Nice. So let's make sure, so we saw it work on the body class. Let's make sure that our button, where's our button? Here's our search button right here. Aria-expanded false. Right there. So we click our button, it changes to true. Hit escape. It removes the class, changes it back to false. Here's our navigation. Added the class, changed our attribute aria-expanded false to true. Now I'll hit escape and, oh, whoops, did I spell that wrong? Hang on. There we go. Hit the escape key. Beautiful. So now we want to do the same thing for our submenus. So yes, you can click the button to open, click the same button to close. Good, great, grand. But I also want you to be able to hit the escape key to close this. So here's how I originally did it. So we'll say submenu buttons. That's what we defined right up here. Submenu buttons for each button. And we'll define the ID, which is the button. And we're just going to get the attribute of aria-expanded and then our submenu is going to be document get element by ID, and it's the ID that we just defined. And then we'll say if submenu class list remove active and button set attribute aria-expanded. We're going to change it from true to false. Whoops. Okay, but here's what happens on mobile, and I understand that on mobile there is no escape key. I totally understand that. However, so first on desktop, if I hit escape, wait, hang on, why didn't you work? Submenu buttons, button. Did I spell something wrong again? Active, aria-expanded, false, aria-expanded. Oh, aria control, right? Aria controls. Okay. So now I should be able to hit the escape key to close that. That's great. We love that. We love that. But here's what is going to happen on mobile. So if this is open and we have a submenu open and we hit the escape key, it clears everything. Isn't really what I want. And I understand on mobile that there is no escape key, but I still think that it should close the submenu first and then close the drawer. So Here's what I did. Here's what we did. This is what I did this morning. I was so pleased with myself. So this, instead of a for each loop, here's what we're going to do. So we're going to close all submenus with a layered approach. We're going to use a for of, so you can stop as soon as you find the active submenu. So we'll say for const sub button of submenu buttons. And we're going to do something really similar. So we'll grab these. So we're getting that ID and that submenu, and then we'll check and we'll say if there's no submenu, continue, and then we'll say if, we're basically going to do this again right here. But we have to change a couple things. So this is actually sub button. And then we want to return. So we're checking the deepest layer first, which is to check and see if there's an active class on a submenu. We want to remove that and close the submenu first. Then, if you hit escape again, then you actually close the drawer. Yeah. It makes sense to me. So let's see how this works. So we open our drawer. We've got menu active. We open our navigation or our submenu. So now I'm going to hit escape. Let's see here. Did I forget to add this someplace? Button is not defined. Hang on. Right here. Okay, so now I'm going to hit escape. We close our submenu. I hit escape again. Nothing happens. Okay, hang on here. We're so close. We're so close. Did I forget something? Contains active. Yes, right here. So we have to actually check this. Class list contains active. Let's try it again. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. We close our submenu, hit escape again. Now we close our drawer. Let's try it again. So open, open. So we're able to only have one open at a time. Hit escape, close, escape, close a second time. I love it. I love it. Let's put a note here. Closes the submenu and the drawer at the same time. I mean, I should probably just delete this. That's it. I love it. This is such good. This to me feels like the most complete, comprehensive navigation I've ever built. Yeah, I'm just really happy with this, especially to figure out the whole submenu. Now we could build a mega menu and we would have great support for it because we would only have one submenu, mega menu item open at a time. And we could have that layered approach where we're closing one thing at a time before we close the drawer. So yeah, I love this. And hey, you may have a different way to do this. You may have a different approach. You may have a better approach. You may have like a really super slick, advanced approach that I don't have because I'm still very much an intermediate JavaScript user. But I'm very pleased with this. And I spent a lot of time on it. So there's that. How are we doing on time here? About an hour and a half. So let's do some more styling. Let's do some more styling. So I think for desktop, I'm good with the styles. But I feel like for mobile, it needs to be a little more clear what those submenus are when they're open, right? So let's make these a different color. Let's give these a dark background by default. So basically we can just style the submenus. We're just going to invert the colors, that's all. Well, but we only want to do it, do we want them inverted on desktop as well? It would save us a lot of hassle, wouldn't it? Let's try it and see how it looks. So where's our styles for the submenus? Background color white. So here's the button stuff that we just did. Navigation, main nav, the LI. It's really the anchor element right here. So the background color is transparent. Really, it should be white, not transparent. And then we're switching it here. Yeah, so really this should be white. Here's the color. Whoops. So let's copy this. And we'll redo it for, so we'll just switch out main nav for subnav. So here's submenu. Submenu. And then we'll switch this around. So the color is going to be white. The background color is going to be the accent. And then for active, focus, hover, the color is going to be the accent. And the background color is going to be white. Let's see if we got this right. Yeah. I don't like this border though. We're gonna change that border. We need to make it a little more subtle. Not quite so stark. And I don't think that we need all of this stuff here. We don't need all of this. But we do need to change our border, and I think it's border top right here. Okay, good. So maybe like the medium gray. It just needs to be a little more subtle. Close. I feel like it just needs to be a slightly lighter variation of the current green color. So let's figure that out. So here's our green color. We'll call it alt green. And then I think we could just, do we want to go a little lighter? So we can see here what the contrast is. That's cool. We love that. Or we could go a little darker. Let's go with like just a smudge lighter right there. Okay, now we have an alt green. So here's our border. Alt green. We'll see how that looks. Love it. I love it. Subtle. It just needs to be subtle. I don't like it on the top though. Let's switch to the bottom. Yeah. Do we not have a border all the way around? Yeah, we do. Is it just getting covered up? I lost it. Here we go. So it's got a border all the way around, but it's getting covered up. Why is it getting covered up? Probably because the border falls on the outside of the box model and the submenu is top 100%. So we could just put, if I move that down, I think even a pixel, it's gonna, but we're not hovering anymore. So does it matter? So we do 100% plus 1 pixel. Are you going to see that border? Yep, you are. And it doesn't really matter because we're not relying on a hover. Even if we were relying on a hover, it was on the LI, so it doesn't matter. So I think we can just move this down by a pixel and then we'll still be able to see our border. So we'll change this right here. Plus 1 pixel. Yeah, I like that. It makes it obvious what is happening. And I like the subtle green border at the bottom here. Okay, let's see how this looks on mobile. Now it's obvious. And we have to keep in mind that you don't hover, right? So the mouse makes it a little bit of a weird experience on desktop. I feel like we have some additional styling here that we have to do. Or I think there's actually a box shadow that we have to remove. Let's see here. Submenus have a box shadow. So let's take out that box shadow in our media query. So this right here. I think that'll take care of it. I think we can just say none. Do we want our button loses focus? So we probably want to make sure that when we're styling that SVG, where is that? Right here. I think we want to do the exact same thing. We don't want this to rotate until it's active. That, I'm down with that. But I think we also want to make sure we can just do this. The button, if the submenu is active, has a background color. Just like that. Oh, but we're going to want to make sure that we still have that stroke. Where is the rotate right here on the, okay. So it doesn't lose focus. Or when it does lose focus, it stays transitioned. Okay. And clearly this still has the wrong border on mobile. Right here. So we want to make sure that yeah, we have to include these styles for mobile. There we go. Look at that. Look how nice that looks. Wow. Okay, so so Sunday, Rahul suggested text aligning these left. And at the time, I was like, oh, I think I'm okay with this. But now that we have this styled, I think that's a good idea. But we're going to need to make sure that we just have some padding on the anchor elements, because right now these don't have any padding on the left or the right, which is easy enough. I think we could just, instead of doing padding here on the top and bottom, I think we could just do padding all the way around and it would be fine. So I don't want to do this on desktop. I only want to left align this on mobile. So this is the main nav A anchor element, which is right here. So I'm not going to change the desktop styles. I'm only going to change these on mobile. So we'll do main nav anchor element, and I'm going to change the padding to 1 rem all the way around, and text align left. Yeah. I'm wondering if we should change the border for everything to be this green color, but I don't know. It's pretty, why is it, here, let's make sure we didn't screw anything up on desktop. I don't think we did. Still has that persistent state even if I click out. Nice. Nice. All right. So I think we need to test this on an actual mobile device. So let's go ahead and push our code up to our GitHub repository, and I'll hook up my phone and we'll check and see what this is actually like to use on a mobile device. So let's do that. Very productive day today. Very productive. JS and styles for navigation. All right. Let's get everything hooked up. Oops. All right. How's everybody doing? Are you with me so far? Does this make sense? I'm very happy. I am very happy. All right. Hold, please. Oh, whoops. Hang on. No, you cannot send localhost to your iPhone. What? It's crazy. Okay, there we go. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Well, we can open the navigation and everything is styled. You cannot really see the contrast, like you can't see the borders in between the list items, you can't see the text shadow. I'll go ahead and I'll put this in the chat if you want to look on your own device. Here's what I'm looking at. And it is working. You know what we should probably do? You know what we might need to do? I don't really do this for my other navigation, so I don't know. Part of me is like, should you be able to click outside of this drawer? Like, click anywhere to get it to close? I don't know. Oh, it looks like we missed some of the styling on our search icon there. That's fine. We can fix that. But we can open our drawer. So that's good. Everything opens and closes. And we only have one drawer open at a time, so that's good. I feel like there's still some weirdness with borders. I think we're going to come back to that though, because it's kind of a slippery slope with this type of styling. I'm just getting tired of styling navigation, especially with the amount of JavaScript that we implemented today. So I think the plan for Thursday this week is we're going to jump back in. Let's go back over. We're going to jump back in to styling our home page because we still have a slider that we need to implement for our testimonials, and we just need to get the footer styled. So that's the plan for Thursday. I honestly didn't think that this would take this long today. I don't know why. One moment. I have no idea why I didn't think this would take this long today. Everything takes me 100 years. But we obviously got a huge thing done today that I'm really pleased with. I feel like the navigation is absolutely solid. It is accessible. It makes sense to me as a user experience. I'm very happy with it. It appears to all be working really well on mobile. I think there are a couple of styling loose ends to figure out, but I'm choosing to not worry about those. So yeah, Thursday, we're going to finish styling the footer and we're going to implement the slider. We've already implemented a testimonial slider on other projects, so I am not going to reinvent that wheel. We're going to go find that JavaScript on the previous project, which I think was called like the Hilltop landing page. And we're going to, we're not just going to copy and paste it. We're going to type it out and understand it and move it from one project to another and get this working. So, and we'll finish styling this as well because these buttons need some focus, hover, active states. Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and get our footer styled at the same time. And then we'll tighten up some styles. I know we need to put borders in between these things. I need to prep MailChimp. We might come back to that. That might not, I mean, we might move on to the other pages. We might come back to that. Yeah, there's a lot to do on this project. I need to get like a JSON file ready, kind of make like a little mini API of sorts for the blog. So I wanted to do some dynamic content. There's plenty to do. Just a reminder that I will be doing, I'm going to do 2 sprints. I'm going to do 2 6-day sprints. So what's today? Today's the 3rd. So the 7th through the 12th and the 14th through the 19th. Yeah, because we have several pages to build out yet on this site. And I want to make up a little bit of time for some time that I missed in February when I had a sick dog. So I guess that's it. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We had a quiet chat, which is perfectly fine. Saeed was here. Hello. Malik says he put this in a little bit ago. He is out of his first meeting. Have a design meeting soon. Good work as usual. I will chat again once I'm done with the meeting. And of course, he keeps us open even though he's working, which I think is very nice. Thank you for that. Thank you, Rahul. Also, our mod in the chat. Clash of Clans was here. It was a quiet day. Totally fine. Good, quiet work day. Nothing wrong with that. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, could you please go ahead and like the video? It helps the algorithm. It helps get this type of content out to more people who might enjoy this type of thing. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Helps the channel grow. If you want to hang out with me over on Instagram, you can find me here. My DMs are open if you have questions about any of the content that I'm creating on YouTube and whatnot. And yeah, I think that's about it. Come back and join me on Thursday this week. I have that stream scheduled. I'll be here at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. We have a couple sprints coming up. This is turning out to be, I say this every time, but this is definitely turning out to be one of my more favorite projects. This navigation is awesome. I'm really pleased with what we figured out with this navigation. Yeah, I like it a lot. So, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I will see you, let me close this. I will see you on Thursday this week. I love you. Bye-bye.